That's not a bad crappie at all. In fact, that's a big crappie. Man, I can't tell y'all how this fish is fighting. Y'all can see it though. That's a good black crappie. I mean, a darn good one. Well, folks, look at there, what a slab crappie. That's a black crappie right there. And this evening, well, we're going to be doing a little corking. It's cold. It's overcast. There's a front blowing in. Typical North Alabama weather. However, does it matter? Well, not to me. Folks, you know, there's a lot of different ways, effective ways, to catch crappie. But one of my most favorite techniques to use, if I can get by with it, is twitching a cork for crappie. In fact, I call it twitching a cork for crappie. And I like to use a small floater. This is an extremely small float. It's probably about 1.25 inches long. It's probably about 7/16 of an inch in diameter. Very, very light. Now, with it, I like to use 2-pound test mono. And I also like to use small jigs. As small as I can get, oftentimes. In fact, 1-inch size jigs, little bitty jig heads, oftentimes is the ticket, especially for finicky crappie. Now I'm going to tell you, the tip on a rod needs to be limber and needs to be flexible enough to bend on the back cast to get a long cast, especially if you're fishing from the bank. A lot of times fishing from the bank, a long cast is important, so I would recommend at least a 6.5 foot rod for this application. Reel, oh, I like a 1,000 size reel. That's the Daiwa reel. I'm fond of Daiwas because of the smooth drag systems. Saves a lot of fish from popping your line, I guarantee you. Now, when you're fishing up under a float like this, or cork, remember, you're actually vertical jigging. That's right, you're vertical jigging. Except for you are controlling your depth with ever how far you slide the cork up your line. So, finding out how deep the fish are, well, that's the most important thing that they are to this application right here. But I'm going to tell you what, once you find the depth, and if there's crappie in the neighborhood, you can absolutely tear these fish up. There's no doubt about it. And one of the most effective ways, if I can get on a bank where the wind's blowing towards me, folks, I love to fire this bait in the wind, through the wind, just as far as I can. And a lot of times, if I need more distance, I'll add a split shot just under the cork right here. Not down here, no, up here. Just crimp a split shot if you need more distance, but I'd rather not even use it, because this float right here, if it's a little bit windy and if there's a little ripple in the water, a lot of times just by letting the wind and the ripples work that bait that's under that cork will get you a lot more strikes than if you actually try to impart action into the jig. In other words, you'll have let me show you for an example. Every time that wave hits this cork, makes it bounce up like that, that jig is doing the same thing. And that is plenty enough action for a crappie to bite. Matter of fact, it's perfect action for crappie to bite. Let's barely move that jig. Kind of letting the waves bounce that little float around, giving it enough action for the strike. There's a fish. I must have hit him right in the head. Made a cast and that time that jig fell to that 2 foot level, that fish hit it. That's a good fish right here, folks. That is a good one. My, of course, this 2 pound test line, I'm gonna take my time. It's been a while since I fished with 2 pound line. And I most always use a Palomar knot or a trilene knot when I'm using 2 pound line. That is a slab. I want y'all to look. That is a big old crappie. Big crappie. Whew. They ain't nothing like this stuff, folks. The sport of fishing. What can I say? I can talk about it, but it's simple. That's a good fish. Let's let him go. Whoa! Beautiful, beautiful crappie right there. That's a big fish right there. Yeah, I mean, it's a good one. Let's catch another one. Oh man, they ain't nothing like it, folks. I love this stuff. That little size 8 hook will hold them if you got your drag set right, a limber tip on your limber rod, and just take your time. You can't horse a fish with a size 8 hook. Got a mess. You know, it just don't take much action at all, folks, to make a fish strike a small jig like this. It just don't take much at all. A lot of times, like I said before, I'll let the wind bounce that float around and just move it a few inches, let the wind bounce it. That's plenty enough action for the strike when you're fishing under a cork. The big deal about this is finding out how deep the fish are. So you got to catch a couple to figure out the correct depth. And once you do that, well, this presentation right here is second to none. You can keep it right in front of that fish's face long enough to get the strike and to catch him. Such a simple way to go about it. And the depth could vary depending on your location, time of the year. Slow is the key, folks. There's no doubt about that. The slower, the better. The more patient of a person that you are, the more crappie you'll catch day in and day out. Look here, folks. There he is. Oh my goodness, this is a big crappie. We'll just take our time with this one. Oh, that 2 pound line. Look here, what a slab. Move my hands out of y'all's way so you can see. Whew. My goodness, what a fish. I'm gonna tell y'all something. This is something else. I come back to the place where I caught one already, and actually I caught one then missed one, so there's some more fish out there in front of us. And that's about a 12-inch fish. I thought he was bigger than that. What it is, like I said, I haven't fished with 2 pound test line in a long time, and I'm not used to it. But let's let him go. It's a big crappie. Big black crappie. Hadn't caught a white crappie yet, but let's make another cast out there, because I did miss another fish. There's a good one right there. Oh my. I mean, a good one.
Get out of there. Trying to get up in that doggone grass. If he does, I've had it. Whew. That was a tussle. I guarantee you. One here and one there. That's fine. That's just right. God, what a pretty clean looking crappie. Look how thick he is across the back. These fish are gorging on shad. Let's let him go right here. Water's pretty shallow right here. But I kind of went to shallow water right here on purpose because it's probably a little bit warmer because it is cold today, folks. And that crappie was up here shallow. They'll do that. That's another thing these crappie will do. And I get a lot of questions about when I fish with a float. I don't use a weighted float. Very, very rarely do I use a weighted float. I just use these little bitty Betts floats and been doing it for years, especially up in shallow water like I'm doing right now. And because of that, I almost always use 2-pound test line. Sometimes I'll use 4, but if there's a lot of cover around. But in a situation like this, well, there's not anything for them to wrap around. No cover at all. So yeah, I love 2-pound test line for this application. I wanted to, let me move that out of the way. I wanted to mention something, folks. When it comes to colors, changing colors is very, very important. But, and that's what I've been doing here. I've changed to several different colors. And I'm going to tell you, this is the only color they're going to hit for me today for some reason. Now, is that because of my confidence level, or is that because it's a fact? Well, in my case, it's a fact, because I have confidence in all colors. A lot of times when fish are really biting, when these crappie are really biting well, I'll catch a fish or two and change colors. Catch a fish or two and change colors. And I find that when crappie are real active, they'll hit just about any color that's ever been. But when they're not, it's going to take a specific color or a couple different colors to get them to bite. Now, I cannot for the world, for the life of me, explain why, but I know it's so. Let's catch another one. There's a fish. There's a good crappie. Wow, I couldn't move him. Couldn't move him. These are some strong, strong fish right here, folks. I'm telling you, every one of these fish is really fought. That ain't just no great old big, let's see, 11 and a half, 12 inches long. Again, just a good, solid, heavy fish. My goodness. And pull they. Let's let him go. Well, he's so fat he can't. See how fat that fish is? They've been eating up here lately. Get on back in there. Well, when I'm fishing like this, especially from the bank, I take my time, folks. Now, crappie fishing, which I've mentioned a lot of times, whether you're in the bank or boat, it don't make any difference. Taking your time, being observant to what's going on around you, and relaxing. When you combine all that together, you got a good situation. You're fishing then, and before you know it, you'll be catching. You don't know what we're talking about. There he is. Oh my goodness, what a crappie. Another mule. Another mule. Golly. I'm surprised how hard these fish are fighting as cold as the water temperature is. But I'm not surprised about them being up shallow. In fact, this is typical for crappie to do that. That's a black crappie. Ain't caught, and a good one too. There's another great old good one. Golly, what a pretty fish. Let's let him go. Crappie will jump up shallow. There ain't no doubt about that, folks. When it gets these cold snaps, just like this one that's coming in, that's pushing in on us right now, well, what's going to happen? That's going to even make that water temperature push it even colder, but that don't make any difference. That's just going to cause more crappie to come up shallow in certain places, especially on the north end of a lake, the north end. Well, folks, that's going to be a perfect place to end it. I tell you what, very, very effective method. I'm just going to call it corking, not slip corking, corking. And I'm going to tell you, once you find that depth, when these fish push up shallow, you can absolutely tear them up. I want to say God bless each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for all the great comments, everything y'all do for this channel. Okay, there's a stick. I'll take it out on. And remember, go fishing when you can, because it's good for you.